Hey everyone, we're on topic 6 and this is unit 7A. We're still learning about exponents. This is our last topic. It's on negative and zero exponents. Every exponent problem we've done so far, the exponent has been a positive number. So today's exponents are going to be a little bit different. So to start, we'll do negative exponents. So negative exponents, if you remember positive exponents, if I wrote 2, there's the bell. If I wrote 2 cubed, that means 2 repeatedly multiplied 3 times. So that means 2 times 2 times 2. If I wrote 2 to the negative 3, what that really means is it means the opposite of multiplying 2 3 times. It means that I divide by 2 3 times. So what that looks like really is, since it's dividing, I need a fraction. In the denominator of my fraction, I would put divide by 2 again, divide by 2. And my numerator would just be 1. So really what that means is 1 divided by 2 3 times. 1 over 2 cubed. So another easy way to think about this, and this is how we're going to talk about it in class, is that any negative exponent switches location in a fraction. And that really has everything to do with the fact that a negative exponent is just repeated division instead of multiplication. So I want to put another example on here. What if I had the number, we're going to say 1 over x to the negative 4th power. All right, so I have a negative exponent, right, negative 4, but it's in the denominator of a fraction. So when I move, or when I rewrite my answer, what that means, and this is what we wrote above, we said any negative exponent switches location in a fraction. So negative 4, my exponent is in the denominator. That wants to go up here to the numerator. So I'm going to move it up here. I'm going to write x, and when I move it, I make it positive. And now that was the only thing in my denominator. So there's nothing left in my denominator. And when there's nothing left in the denominator, we can write 1. Or we can just write this, x to the 4th power, because the denominator of 1 doesn't change anything. All right, I'm going to go over here to zero exponents before we move on. So zero exponents are pretty great, actually. So zero exponents, we're going to write here, any number in parentheses raised to the 0th power. So I'm going to write here 0th power equals 1. And I'm going to write here, for example, let's say 5 to the 0th power. That's just 1. 1,000 to the 0th power. That's just 1. And let's write this, ax b squared in parentheses to the 0th power. That's just 1. So zero exponents are actually pretty great because they just turn into the number 1, and multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything. All right, so let's do some examples. Simplify each of the following. This first one, we have a negative exponent. And we know a negative exponent switches places in the fraction. This is not a fraction, so I want to make it a fraction by putting it over 1. And since that exponent is negative, this whole thing x to the negative 3rd is going to move to the denominator, and that's going to become positive. Now there's nothing left in the numerator, so I'll put a 1. All right, I'm going to go over here to example 2. In example 2, I have a zero exponent. I'm going to write this actually one more way. 9x to the 0th power means 9 times x to the 0th power. X to the 0th power is just 1. So that means this is just 9 times 1, which is 9. What I like to do sometimes is I like to look at my original problem, and if I see x to the 0th or anything to the 0th, I actually cross it out altogether. Because if it's just 1, it means we can ignore it. because we're going to just multiply by 1, and that's why I only have a 9 left. So that's an option too if you want to do that. I'm going to erase that. All right. Next problem over here, example 3, 1 over x cubed. Okay, I have x to the negative 3. Sorry, 1 over x to the negative 3. I have a negative exponent. It's in the denominator. So it wants to move out of the denominator to the numerator, and when it does that, it becomes positive. And now there is nothing left in the denominator, so I put a 1, and that means this is just x cubed. All right, example 4 has a lot of stuff going on, right? Example 4, I have an x to the 0th power, so that's just 1. I'm actually going to cross that out. I have a y to the negative 2, and I have a 10 in the denominator. So y to the negative 2, that's my negative exponent right there. That wants to move to the denominator. I'm going to put it down here, y, and instead of negative 2, I'll make it 2. And then the 10 started in the denominator, so it'll stay down there. And there's nothing left in the numerator, so I put a 1. Let me just reduce this final answer, because I wouldn't write this like this normally. I would write it with 1 over, we normally put the number first as a coefficient, 10y squared. All right, example 5. Okay, so here I have 1 positive exponent, 1 negative. I'm going to think about my negative exponent first. So any negative exponent does not want to be in where it is, does not want to be in the denominator. So this x to the negative 5th wants to move up to the numerator of the fraction with this x to the 8th. So x to the 5th would come up here. X to the 8th is still up in the numerator. Nothing remains in the denominator. I'll put it over 1. And let's reduce this answer. X to the 5th times x to the 8th. X to the 5th means x, 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 x. X to the 8th means this 8 times. If you combine those, you get x to the 13th over 1, and that's just x to the 13th. All right, example 6. So I have a negative exponent. I'm going to do that first, right here. My negative exponent wants to move to the denominator, so I'm going to take this and move it to the denominator, x, and make it positive 2. Let's look at the rest of the stuff. Y cubed stays on top. X to the 7th stays in the denominator. And now let's combine our x's. This is 2 x's, this is 7 x's. Combined, that is, I'm going to keep this in black. Combined, that is x to the 9th. And up here I have y cubed. So my answer is y cubed over x to the 9th. All right, example 7. So I have an x to the 0 in this problem. We know that's just 1. Again, I like to just cross it off. It doesn't affect the problem at all. Y to the negative 5th is going to end up in the denominator. So I'm going to rewrite my fraction bar. I'm going to put y to the 5th down here, right? And also down here I have x cubed, and I have just a y. Nothing left in the numerator, so I'll put a 1. Combine these, y to the 5th and y. That in total is y to the 6th and x cubed, and a 1 on top. All right, last example, example 8, and this one should be nice and easy. I hope you remember that anything to the 0th power is just 1. All right, you guys should be practicing this on your homework. This is the last topic we have for exponents, so you have a quiz or a test coming up soon, a quiz on 7A. All right, good luck.